Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Miramar. I'm so glad to be hosting this TPS session. I think it's going to be very informative. We are going to be streaming on Facebook Live, also on Island TV, Comcast Channel 78, also Miramar TV, and we have a WebEx component. So for those that are not here, they'll be able to catch this informational session on all of our media platforms. We'd like to start by having our State Representative Marie Woodson lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Commissioner. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to welcome our County Commissioner Dale V.C. Holness, also State Representative Marie Woodson, who you've heard from, but also our guest panelists here this evening. We have Marlon Bastian from the Family Action Network Movement. We have Vanessa Joseph, I believe, from the attorney from the Catholic Legal Services. Yereliz Mendez Samoa, Florida Immigration Coalition. I'm not sure if she's here. And Nadine Gideon, Haitian Lawyers Association. And Sanchez Dennis, Vanessa, and Sam. I probably messed up that royally, but I'd like to thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here today, just to ensure that we have the information we need regarding TPS. And at this time, I'd like to hand the mic over to our County Commissioner, Dale V.C. Holness.
Bonsoir Tutman. Bienvenue. Glad to be with you this evening as we take ourselves on this journey to support the Haitian people here in Broward County, in South Florida, in the United States, so that they can in turn help those who are in Haiti. We know the situation in Haiti is grave right now. Very difficult situation for the Haitian people. We in the United States must stand with the Haitian people. For many years, Haiti has contributed tremendously to the United States and to the world, being the first Black republic, the first enslaved people to free themselves of slavery. They actually helped to propel better life in America for Blacks. And in Latin America and the Caribbean, they were a part of the liberation forces. It helped even Simon Bolivar liberate Central America, South America. And certainly in the war for independence, we can't forget that some of the bravest fighters to win independence for America were Haitian forces, and they demonstrated that in Savannah. The Louisiana lands, a third of this country, was given to America by France for 15 cents per acre because of the victory of the Haitian people. So what we're doing here is but a small token of the gratitude we ought to show to Haiti. And Haiti continues to be a great partner with us throughout many, many years. So this evening, what we're going to do is start the process. We know that portals are not ready yet for the applications to be turned in, but we must be prepared in advance so that when the time comes, we're able to do this rapidly, because those who are out of status will need to be employed, need to go to school, need to take care of themselves, so that they can help those who are left behind in Haiti. This evening we have a great panel, people with experience who understands immigrants who serviced immigrant community and the Haitian community over many, many years. I have for panelists, which we'll turn over to in a minute, and they can talk about their organizations more than I can and what they do. We will put together a resource guide that will distribute for South Florida from Miami to Palm Beach so that those who qualify for temporary protective status, the Haitian people who do, they will have places throughout South Florida where they can get the services to complete the application process. With us this evening, we have Marlon Bastian. Marlon began her career volunteering at the Haitian Refugee Center. She's a trained paralegal and has provided assistance to thousands of refugees at the Chrome Detention Center. Marlon Bastian is known for fighting for Haitian immigrants side by side with Father Gerard Jean-Zeus on the streets, in the courts, and in Washington, D.C. to get freedom and work permit for thousands of Haitian immigrants. We were together back then. We're still together, Marlene. Thank you and welcome. Our next panelist is Vanessa Joseph, an attorney. More than an attorney. But this evening, she's wearing that attorney hat. Vanessa Joseph is a University of Miami graduate, earning a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's of public administration, and a Juris Doctorate. Vanessa Joseph has spent her years as a law student working as an advocate for immigration and human rights. She served at legal clinics and is a fierce advocate of veterans, persons with disabilities, and individuals with HIV and AIDS. We're going to go ahead and let Marlene talk about herself, her organization. I'm sorry. That our esteemed state representative have another event, and I told her she'd be out of here in like 6:10.
That's what happened when you give a politician a microphone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking with him. Anyway, good evening again, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon with you. I would like to start by thanking Commissioner Davis, actually, who has always stand with the Haitian community. You have always stood with us, and we thank you for putting this event together in collaboration with Commissioner Delhorness, who is another one. Wherever I go, I think he's Haitian. Wherever I go, he's always there. So putting this forum together and bringing us to the table is very good, and we really appreciate it. The immigrant community has grown really so exponentially in South Florida, and we are growing by leaps and bounds. As you can see at this table, we have 3 Haitian American and 1 who is of Jamaican descent, or all 4. All 4 of you are Haitian. Okay, hey, I'll take that back. All 4 Haitian women sitting at that table, and I will tell you that all 4 of them have shown that they really have what it takes to be sitting at this table. They have put in so much work in order to advance the Haitian community, and I'm so proud of every single one of them. And I know once I leave, you are in good hands with those 2 in this firecracker panel that you have here to talk about TPS. So I am really reminded about 10 years ago that Miramar did not have so many Caribbeans on the dais. And now you can see how much they have contributed to the growth of Miramar. A lot of foreign-born members in our community have been contributing and continue to contribute to the growth of Broward County. Yes, we are here and we are here to stay, and we are going to make sure that our brothers and sisters, not just Haitian, but all those other countries, Honduras, Venezuela, all those other countries benefit from the United States of America, from what the United States of America has to offer. We all are here for better opportunities. I don't care where you're from. We all want better opportunities, and that's what we will continue to fight for. There are a few of us actually who have contributed, but remain in the shadows because they are undocumented. And this is why we're here sitting here at this table. That's not fair, especially since they're paying taxes. When they go to the store, to the grocery store to buy food, they pay taxes. They buy fuel to put in their car and all other type of necessities that they have to buy. Not only that, we find a lot of TPS recipients who are really nurses, they are doctors, they are working, even though they do not have the paper. We have been through a pandemic. We're seeing that we are short of healthcare workers. So they are contributing largely. Let's not forget as well the children who arrived to this country with no choice of their own. And this is the only country that they ever know. I'm proud to be part of this TPS event because this is a step in the right direction. It's only fair for us to do this. This TPS designation granted by President Biden is, we really are grateful for what he has done. But guess what? We need to have more than that. We need to create a path to citizenship for our family members who really need to stop living in fear. They cannot sleep at night because 18 months go by just like 18 days before they know it. It's time for them to get the TPS renewed again. So we can't continue down that road. So it's time that we do what's right by allowing them to become residents and then citizens. So thank you so much for having me here. I know I'm leaving you all in very, very good hands, starting from Vanessa, Central, all of you, and Marlon, all of you. I don't want to leave you out, but I think you're the only one that I don't know the name. So take it on and give them all that you got, just like you all have done in so many other forums. Thank you so much for having me, Commissioner, both commissioners, thank you. And for you all who have taken the time to be here, thank you as well, because you're showing that you really care. For my Haitian brothers and sisters, nap travail pour nous et nap make sure que nous gagnons ça nous besoin dans TPS. Nous fait nous connaître ça et nous gagnons tout l'autre monde que pas même cité non yo. Anthony, all of y'all who are working with those with the commissioners, thank you so much. Have a good night.
If I may continue a little bit here, and we have a great public servant and State Representative Mary Woodson, who's doing a tremendous job for us in Tallahassee. And we are public servants. We are here to serve the public people in our community. If I may just take a couple of minutes before we have Marlene speak and then Vanessa. Immigrants contribute to the building of this nation. We're an immigrant country. Pretty much all of us came from somewhere else. The Indians were here before most of the other immigrants, but history tells us that they immigrated here also. And in recent times, you can see the contribution of the immigrants in our country. In fact, $2 trillion was added to the United States gross domestic product in 2016. And immigrants pay $458 billion in state, local, and federal taxes in 2018. The immigrant-based workers are considered essential workers very often. We need to treat them as though they are actually essential workers by ensuring that they are a full part of this country. Another factor, immigrants are more likely to start businesses than those who are born here. So that's a huge contribution to the economic output and growth of this country. Our panelists will start with Marlon Bastian, and then we'll go on to Vanessa, and then I'll do the other guy. Need the mic, pull the mic together. We're on television.
Good evening. Bonsoir tout le monde. Comment nous y? All right. So should we speak in Creole and English? Na parler en Creole et en anglais, pas vrai? I'd like to greet each and everyone here tonight. Only English or Creole and English?
Both.
Yeah. And I'd like to start by thanking our own Commissioner Alexandra Davis, for welcoming us in this wonderful, wonderful historic edifice tonight. And of course, and our Commissioner from Fort Lauderdale, both of them have always stood with us, like our representative from District 101 and Farm Board Chair Mary-Paul Woodson indicated. Thank you both. It is refreshing to always see elected officials who do not only come out when they need your votes, they are there when you need them, and they are there when you need important information shared, which is what we're doing tonight. So Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Dale Holness, thank you for your leadership. We do appreciate you. We'd like to greet our young leaders here on the dais with us, Madame Gideon, Madame Denise, and Madame Vanessa Joseph. It is also refreshing to see young leaders stepping up. What it indicates to us who are from the older generation is that we can rest easy because we know that the next generation is ready to step up when the needs arise. So I'm proud to be on this diet with you all. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming. Like we sometimes say at FAM, information is power. And I can guarantee you that there are a lot of bad information out there. Let me start by giving you a little bit of information about FAM, Family Action Network Movement. FAM is a one-stop center located in Little Haiti. I'm going to say it briefly in English and I'll say it in Creole. We are located in Little Haiti. I say that we are a one-stop center because we provide what we call wraparound services, including mental health, access to health care, access to affordable housing. We have after-school programs for our children to support family members who have to be employed outside their homes. When the children come, they can come to our center. We have an adult education center where we teach literacy, English, and computer skills. We also have summer camps right now for those of you who would like to volunteer. But most importantly, in addition to providing wraparound services to strengthen families, because we believe that strong families make strong communities, we also organize our members around issues of importance. We give them the tools to advocate for themselves. And that's how FAM has been leading the fight for TPS, temporary protected status, for over 20 years now. We led the first TPS campaign, and then we've subsequently led efforts to redesignate and continue TPS. Let me start by saying that Haiti has always qualified for the redesignation. However, we know that after President Trump was elected, he terminated TPS. As a result of that, FAM was one of the organizations, nationally, who joined a dozen of TPS recipients to sue the Trump administration for terminating TPS. We fought, we sued the Trump administration, and we won. Yeah, we won. I was one of the witnesses who testified in the circuit court in Brooklyn, New York. And as a result, the 58,000 Haitians who qualified for TPS were able to stay and then will benefit from this redesignation. When we brought the idea of the redesignation a few years ago, when we sat down with the national immigrant organizations in Washington, D.C., a lot of people thought that it was impossible. But we at FAM believe that if you organize and fight hard for what you want, you will eventually succeed. And lo and behold, after years of organizing, locally, statewide, and nationally, after organizing our members and bringing them to Washington, and then right before the pandemic, we brought 30 Haitian families with their children to Washington, D.C., as we do every year, four times a year, to speak to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, not only about the redesignation, but about finding a permanent path for temporary protected status. Like our state representative Mary Paul Woodson indicated, 18 months goes very fast. And we know that the Dream and Promise Act, which could give a permanent path to the 600,000 TPS recipients, right, from Venezuela, the 58,000 and now over 150,000 from Haiti, the 196,000 from El Salvador, 85,000 from Honduras, and 3,500 from Nicaragua. Not only that we need this redesignation, but we also need to find a way to help them become permanent residents with trailblazing a path to citizenship. So we were very happy over a month ago now, right? May 20th, when we got a call that from staffers from the White House that good news was forthcoming, and then that TPS would be redesignated. Contrary to what people are saying out there, guys, the regulations are not out yet. You cannot complete your applications yet, and I'm going to invite Paul Dunphy to come for a couple of minutes after I say a few words in Creole. The applications are not out there. You cannot apply yet. We know some of you have called our offices telling us that you've paid money. People have been asking you to pay $1,500, $2,500 to fill out an application for TPS. That's not correct. The applications, the regulations are not out yet. However, the only thing that we know for a fact is that if you lived continuously in the U.S., right, up to May 21st, 2021, you qualify, and you are from Haiti, you can prove that you are Haitian, right? You qualify to apply. And then, as I say, Paul will come and give you a little bit of details. So the applications are not out yet. We at FUM will continue to advocate for a permanent path. We encourage you to join us because it's a long fight. Changing policies take time. We meet bi-monthly at FUM, and we encourage you to come and participate so that we can not only help everyone who qualifies, every one of the over 100,000 who qualify to apply, but also to continue this fight for permanency. All right? Pour moun qui parle créole yo, centre femme dans l'île Chitakol l'anti-Haïti, non bail service à différents niveaux, non conseiller famille leur besoin aide, si vous besoin accès à caille bon marché, si vous besoin accès à soins santé, si vous besoin côté premier petit dans programme après école. Et on l'a trié l'autre programme. Donc, un programme adulte qui montre mon écrit, apprendre comment pour utiliser le computer, montrer comment pour côté pour qui côté et comment pour appliquer pour job. Mais en plus de tout service à on bail, non aider organiser mon yo pour bataille pour droit yo. C'est comme ça. On mène nos voyages à Washington avec un pile de membres yo, donc des réunions et 2 fois par mois, côté nous organiser nous pour nous mener à Washington pour parler pour tête sûr. Non seulement notre bataille pendant plus passer 20 années pour un TPS, pas vrai? Nous bataille en pile pour redesignation et Haïti était déjà qualifié pour redesignation. Pas vrai? Depuis des années avant de qualifier pour redesignation parce que Haïti est victime plusieurs problèmes désastres naturels et problèmes politiques en pile instabilité politique. Donc, on a dit que règlement yo pas ko dehors. Quand pile monde qui dit comme ça que yo relé yo gen monde qui après yo cap dit yo vinn appliquer gen dit déjà payé 1,500 $2,500 qui sont crimes qu'on est avocat yo d'accord sur ça sont crimes liés à règlement yo pas ko dehors. Léo dehors on a fait nous connaît il a publié dans journal fédéral pas boy ici pour nous faire nous connaître qui le qu'on appliquer mais qu'on y a non pas qu'on appliquer il est important pour nous tendre un règlement au publier mais seul ça donc a dit non depuis nous habité et dans pays juste up to jusqu'à 21 mai 2021 nous qualifiés pour nous appliquer pour statut protégé et Paul qui c'est chief organizer dans cette forme après pour la balle seulement 2 minutes pour le dire non pour le dire non dit plus sous réunion qu'a fait yo et puis qui ça nous besoin merci Paul très vite parce que nous déjà dépassé temps moi me connais donc il y a un pilote bon speaker qui vient pour parler après moi.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you. I will not be more than 90 seconds. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and of course, Commissioner Holness, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family right now. So, rapide là, pour me capable assurer que l'autre monde gagne assez temps que vous présenter. Donc, c'est juste deux services que nous offrons, et parmi une multitude de services que Marlon expliqué, les directrices exécutives expliqué, il y a 2 services que nous avons besoin d'attirer attention nous. Premier service là, c'est que nous avons un forum que nous toujours réunis et monde qui gagne TPS ou bien monde qui espère gagne TPS. Donc prochaine séance nous c'est 12 août, son opportunité justement pour rencontrer l'autre monde TPS et pour joindre information essentielle. Donc nous avons un groupe WhatsApp et nous avons une réunion que nous fait par Zoom ou bien par téléphone pour monde qui pas gagne Zoom. Donc prochaine réunion c'est 12 août. Mais si Federal Register sorti avant ça, nous avons une réunion d'urgence. Donc nous avons flyer yo et notre table qui est avec toute information. Donc, juste, et nous, c'est une fournisseur service parmi les gens qui là. Donc, songez, parez-nous, même si fait la registre pour qu'on sorti, ça ne va pas empêcher nous, parez-nous avec pour éventuellement remplir I-821 et I-765 et pour préparer Freyo, que selon cas de figure qui est capable presque $500 en tout. Donc, assurez que vous avez un extrait archive, assurez que vous avez une pièce d'identité, une photo, passeport, assurer que vous avez une preuve que vous êtes là depuis 21 mai. Mais je pense que l'information ça n'a pas l'autre monde qui pourra bailler plus en détail, mais forme c'est une fourniture de service. Numéro de téléphone c'est 305 756 4050. Merci un peu. Thank you very much.
Merci un peu. Le centre femme dans l'île là pour aider nous, pas vrai? Nous avons information ça yo pour se partager là, nous avons par email si nous t'arrêtons pour nous voyer au banon, nous avons plus d'informations, nous avons une copie sous table derrière. Mais ça qui est important, nous voulons pour nous participer dans une réunion bimensuelle 2 fois par mois pour nous ensemble et jouer l'information parce que comme nous toujours dit dans femme là, information c'est pouvoir. Merci un peu.
Merci Peel indeed. Attorney Vanessa Joseph representing Catholic Charter.
All right, so I'm just doing the introduction, right? Not the presentation at this time?
You can go ahead and do all.
Do the presentation as well? Okay, so whoever is doing the PowerPoint, if you can get that ready. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and introduce to you all Catholic Legal Services. Some people also know it as Catholic Charities. Essentially, we are a nonprofit legal services organization. While we do have the name Catholic Charities or Catholic Charities Legal Services, we do not only serve Catholics, we are not all Catholic. And so it really is just an organization that is dedicated to providing competent legal representation to individuals throughout the South Florida immigrant community. Donc, pour moun qui pas comprendre anglais ou bien qui pas entendre anglais, non, moi c'est Vanessa Joseph, moi c'est un avocat dans Catholic Charité Service Légal. C'est une organisation non pour filles qui travaille dans toute communauté sud Floride là, côté que nous portons service by toute communauté immigrant, même si ou pas catholique ou même, nous-mêmes nous pas catholiques, so pas de problème. Donc, what I'm going to start with is essentially a PowerPoint presentation that gives you all an overview. We will try to not be too detailed. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So we'll try not to be too detailed. We can always ask questions afterwards. Si vous avez des questions, nous mettons toujours poser. On m'a essayer aller le plus vite possible parce que nous connaissons que bien l'autre monde qui besoin de parler.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So one of the first things that we always tell people is to really be careful when it comes to notarios. We know that at this time, especially, there are a lot of people out there who are trying to take advantage of this community. And of course, the Venezuelan community and other communities who just may not have access to information. So we encourage people to seek the services of either competent licensed attorneys or other legal service providers or organizations that you're already used to working with to ensure that you are getting the best guidance possible. Nous pas mais que moun prend avantage de nous, surtout dans moment vulnérable ça yo. Il y a pile moun qui pas de problème pour yo prendre avantage sur communauté. So it's really important. C'est très important que nous cherchions soit yon moun que nous connaissons qui sont avocats qui licenciés qui fait immigration ou bien une organisation que nous habitués déjà à aller avec eux, nous déjà habitués à aller côté eux, parler avec eux pour voir qui ça que eux même yo ka fait pour assurer que vous jouez le service que vous besoin. There is also the Federal Register notice, which was mentioned today. As of today, it still has not been released, but as soon as it is released, of course, a lot of these organizations will give you the same information. And it will allow us to know exactly, certain eligibility criteria and the requirements for filing. Donc, raison qui fait que vous pouvez pas commencer faire application TPS là, c'est parce que avis fédéral n'a pas sorti. Donc, ça veut dire que le Wallis est appliqué, ou pas connaître exactement qui ça que yo pral demander comme critère, et non seulement ça, ou pas connaître combien qu'on pour y aller et tout ça. Bien que bon formulaire qui déjà de yo, ça pas veut dire que, you know, ou mettre remplir même gens que nous t'a rempli n'importe l'autre formulaire parce que nous pas connaît exactement qui ça avis fédéral pral demander que nous mettez là-dedans. Another point that I want to make is that we've been doing a lot of advocacy around the filing fee and trying to reduce that and making sure that this administration takes into account recent events in Haiti and maybe thinks about extending that date. And so we want to make sure that, you know, all of that is taken into account in the Federal Register notice. So we don't want actually to rush it out right now. I mean, we do want it to come out as soon as possible so people can apply. However, we want the administration to, you know, take some of that into consideration. Gen pil moun takou Organisasyon Catholique Charité, Femme et HLA avanse ensemble kap travay pou essayer wè si yo ka réduit frais immigration que mande pour TPS lan. Si yo ka changer date que yo mande kote supposé là déjà, li important pour nous considérer que nous besoin administration répondre à ça yo en dans avis fédéral lan. Donc c'est pour ça justement nous poko ka fait rien avec application yo, OK? Donc, il y a des gens qui font faux promesses, qui disent que, you know, ils ont rempli l'application un jeudi, il y a voulu l'aller pour vous, mais c'est pas vrai, parce que qui boy yo pas voulu l'aller, yo peut même dire, mais qui adresse, donc voulu l'application TPS aller. So it's really important that you take time to, and be patient, right? This is a great time to start collecting your documents, because what you don't want is somebody telling you and giving you false promises and telling you that they're going to be able to complete your application with you and send it off for you tomorrow. And in reality, we don't even have a filing address yet for this application, for Haiti at least. So what do you need to be eligible for TPS? Of course, you must be a national of Haiti or, you know, Venezuela, you know, because we've been doing TPS for Venezuela as well, or a person without nationality who last habitually resided in said country, right? You must have been physically present in the US on or before May 21st, 2021. That's so far, right? That's for Haiti specifically. You must have been continuously residing in the US since the date that is going to be put on the Federal Register notice, which is why we have to wait for it before we can actually apply. And you cannot have been convicted of any felony or 2 misdemeanors in the United States. So it's really important that we wait on the Federal Register notice, because again, points 2 and 3 are going to be highlighted in there and are going to really inform how we move forward as a community. Donc, pour éliger pour TPS, faut que c'est yon moun qui sont Haïti ou c'est yon citoyen haïtien, ou bien, même si ou pas bien citoyenneté, dernier côté était vraiment, c'était Haïti, était supposé ici aux États-Unis avant ou bien un jour qui était 21 mai 2021, et avis fédéral nan pral di nous depuis qui l'heure où t'es supposé techniquement résider ici. Résider, ça pas veut dire en termes légal pour immigration, non, ça pas veut dire que vous avez une résidence permanente, ça veut dire que vous êtes resté dans le pays, vous êtes vivre dans le pays, OK? Donc c'est pour ça que nous avons tant avis fédéral là, parce que considération ça, c'est là nous pral aller. Et puis ou pas qu'à commettre un crime grave ou bien 2 délais, ça y relé un felony ou bien 2 misdemeanors. Donc là, nous avons un graphique qui montre nous différents gens que vous avez dit que vous pas éligible pour TPS, ou bien qui gens que vous avez éligible pour TPS. Nous ne pouvons pas rentrer vraiment là-dedans parce que je pense que discussion ça c'est les plus bon que vous gagnez avec un avocat. This is an eligibility chart that we use, and it's just really important to just understand that there are certain grounds of inadmissibility and eligibility that should be considered. But we're not going to go into details today because it's best to have a conversation with an attorney one-on-one to determine whether you fall into these. Same thing with this. Who can apply for TPS? So if you're a non-immigrant or your status is expired, you entered without inspection, you are a deferred action recipient, DACA, if you have DACA, people with removal orders, if you have pending applications either before the court or immigration, and you can apply for TPS, right? And every single family member has to apply for TPS so long as they're eligible and they qualify, right? And even if you have TPS, they're going to expect that you also apply. You have to remember that you can't derive TPS status because it's not a form of actual immigration permanent status that you could derive, right? So you are not able to say, I have TPS and I'm going to pass TPS on to my daughter. Your daughter is going to have to apply, assuming that she meets the eligibility criteria. Donc, qui est-ce qui a appliqué pour TPS? Yon moun qui sa yo rele yon non immigrant, ça veut dire yon moun qui pas gen intention pour venir, pour venir là pour vivre, donc nous ka di yon étudiant ou bien yon moun qui était sous visa touriste. Même le li expiré ou ka appliqué pour TPS. Si vous êtes rentré sans inspection, c'est ça yo les IWI ou bien EWI, c'est comme ça yo marqué. Au moun qui était rentré immigration pas weli, n'a appliqué pour TPS. Si vous êtes joint DACA ou bien yon l'autre type de bénéfice ou bien relève qui te dit que ou ka arrêté dans pays mais nous pas bon statut vraiment ou ka appliqué si ou gen yon lot déportation ou bien ou gon application pour yon bénéfice ou bien yon relève devant soit immigration ou bien tribunal là ou ka appliquer pour TPS. Songez que chaque grand moun dans famille depuis yon qualifié, depuis yon éligible, yon supposé appliquer pour propre TPS pa yo. TPS c'est pas une forme de bénéfice que ou ka dit que m'a bay petit moins li. Okay, because there's pas de moyen pour buy petit tout TPS. Faut que petit tout appliquer pour tout. Okay? Mais faut qu'il qualifie tout. Donc c'est pas parce que un dit ti moun te fait dans l'autre pays, c'est pas parce que ou même ou haïtien ou gen TPS automatiquement ou va dire que ti moun pral prend TPS là dans main. Ti moun faut qu'il fait propre application par lui depuis le qualifié l'a joindre. Okay? Et même si ou ta gen TPS kounya, yo pral demander que ou fait ou remplir une nouvelle forme pour TPS. Donc, qui forme qui nécessaire, ça qui vraiment nécessaire là, c'est forme I-821. Et nous connaissons que yo te passé forme là, c'est pas une forme que vraiment nous pral faire pour compte nous, bon, on va essayer, bah ouais, rien que mal dans ça, but vraiment, je pense que l'important surtout dans le contexte ça pour aller contre monde qui compte ça y a fait pour assurer que les bien fait. Ça, si nous-mêmes, ça m'a suggéré nous faire, c'est que si nous pas gain cob, pour faire n'importe l'autre application, minimum, faire application TPS là, payer pour un print yo, là on paye $135 pour faire pour deux formes ça yo, si yo pas ta retirer frais yo, mais ou payer pour petit comme ça pour deux formulaires ça yo et puis ou joindre TPS là. Après ça kounya ou ka essayer faire yon work permit, OK, carte travail, mais on dit que ou gon carte travail déjà, li pas nécessaire pour sortir aller faire yon lot, OK? Et me connais que gen un pile moun qui te fait li sous dernier TPS là pour qu'on joindre il y a printemps vraiment. Donc c'est pas un bagage qui nécessaire kounya. On l'autre bagage que ou ka essayer faire si ou pas gen un pile corps ou ka faire yon forme qui c'est 912 qui c'est yon fee waiver ou ka demander gouvernement tant pris à cause de situation moins ou bien parce que moun, you know, qui prend soin de là, jeune food stamp, whatever ça lien, moi pas qu'à payer, donc tant pris, bonne permission pour me pas payer frère. OK? Donc ça c'est une option tout, mais c'est pas tout le monde qui est qualifié pour lui. Donc depuis ou qu'à payer, vaut mieux payer comme là et puis fini. On dit que vous besoin voyager. Si vous besoin voyager, il y a une forme qui c'est 131, OK? Ça c'est un advance parole. Kounya ou pral dit que ou pral voyager. Mais on dit que ou kon application asile. Côté que ou dit gouvernement que ou peut tourner dans le pays. Il y a pile monde fait un asile, yo dit yo peut tourner dans le pays, premier bagay yo fait là yo joine opportunité faire TPS là, yo vini besoin yon advance parole dans qui pays ou praler Haïti. Haïti. So kounya, OK, faut que nous comprenions que bien que lò gen asile ou bien si ou nan processus asile ou ka aplike pou TPS, ou pa ta vle fè kèmpot aksyon ki ka fè yo, pense que sorte mette nan asile nan pa dwe. Donc, faut que nous fassions très attention avec ça. Mais, de toute façon, $575, c'est pour lier, pas pour moi, de pour gagner, mais sans besoin de faire. Mais, cependant, considérer, est-ce que c'est ça qui est bon pour moi? Et en plus, je pense que c'est là, ça, tout, que vous avez parlé avec un avocat pour assurer que vous avez fait bon chemin. Une forme G28, ça c'est une forme qui montre que un avocat qui sous cas ou bien un monde qui accrédité pour faire travail là qui a suivre cas ce monde ça carrelé même là ou parle avec yo et puis il s'en soit 601 excusez ça c'est un waiver so ça c'est si gen yon raison qui fait que ou pas éligible ou pas obligé faire formulaire ça et standard là pour TPS les différents de ça yo gagné pour résidence là mais nous pas prendre trop fort là-dedans parce que je pense que toute conversation ça yo dépassé côté mieux kounya donc il est important pour si vous connaissez que ou bon problème dans dossier ou faut vous parler avec your avocat. So these are the list of required forms. The 821 is the form if you want to apply for TPS. And if you are short on funds, it's worth just applying for TPS with the I-821, paying for the biometrics, which is your fingerprints, and making sure that at the very least, you have that in there. Now, it's more expensive when you start doing the work permit, but let's say you already have a work permit, there's no urgency for you to go do it at this time. And so you can go ahead and just do the TPS application and then later do the work permit. You can also do an I-912, which is a fee waiver, where you have the option of basically telling the government, look, because of these specific situations or because of XYZ, and the form is pretty clear, it gives you 3 different bases upon which you can claim that you cannot afford to pay those funds, you will be able to essentially get a waiver of having to pay those fees. However, if you're able to pay the fees, it's so much easier because if you get denied for any reason, then it kind of like slows the process. And I know that a lot of people are already impatient. The advanced parole is the form I-131, and that's $575. Oftentimes people are, asylum applicants from a certain country, and then when they want to do the advanced parole, the place that they want to go to is the place where they sought asylum from. You have to be really careful with that because it sends the wrong message to government, to immigration, and basically tells them, well, this person really isn't afraid because they want an advanced parole. They paid almost $600 to go back to the place that they said that they're afraid of. So it's really important to really think about these things before you go and apply for an advanced parole. A Form D28 is essentially to say that this is the attorney or the accredited representative who has my case, and that person will be able to liaise with DHS on your behalf. And then the I-601 is a waiver in case there are any eligibility issues on your part. And so you'll be able to do this waiver. It's $930. The standard is different from residency, but that's, again, a conversation that's far beyond this venue here that, we don't need to get into it. But if you feel that you have some concerns about your eligibility, it's really important to talk to an attorney who will be able to go through all of this with you. So this is just basically tips on completing the form I-21. So we do some trainings to help people understand how to fill out the form, but service providers, not really applicants, because we really don't think people should do it on their own. But everything should be filled out except for parts 4, 5, and 6, because those are for late initial filings. And it can get a little bit confusing because sometimes you're reading the form and it kind of conflicts with what the instructions may say and then what also common sense or logic may tell you. So that's why, again, it's really important to just go to people who know what they're doing than to go just to anybody because they said that they can. Again, these are the fees, which I kind of lightly covered just a little bit earlier, but these are also just available on USCIS. Comme tu n'es back parce que tu dis ça en créole. Sous forme 821, nous pas recommander que moun rempli propre forme pa yo. Et nous kon bay des séances d'information ou bien des formations côté que nous apprenons moun qui de différentes organisations montrer que j'ai pu faire une forme I-821. Cependant, il y a 3 parties que nous pas fait, c'est 4, 5, 6, mais c'est pour ça que nous toujours dit nous pas faire les pour compte parce que ou ka confondre ça y a demandé avec sa instruction yo marqué et ça ou même dans logique pas ou ça ou penser que question yo a posé. Ça c'est frais yo, mais ça disponible sur USCIS.gov. OK. So pour moun qui a asile devant USCIS ou bien EOIR ou ka appliquer pour TPS, cependant moun qui a juridiction c'est bien sûr gouvernement et juge là ka reviser si vous avez acheté l'application, OK? Bien sûr, vous avez voyagé, j'aime te dire nous, mais vous risquez pour ne pas penser que, vous pas prendre au sérieux le fait que vous n'êtes pas tourné à Haïti parce que vous avez voyagé et puis vous tournez à Haïti, OK? Et puis, vous attendre et puis appliquer pour une late initial registration after. OK, tribunal a fini. So, on dit que ou son monde qui vle ouais, bon prendre chance moi avec ça pour ce que me déjà pour moi. Si vous faites ça et puis on dit que n'est pas bien passé pour vous ou gain chance pour appliquer et puis vous juste dire mais pour qui ça me appliqué en retard. Et puis si vous devant tribunal ou bien ou devant immigration avec un asile ou ka demander que vous fermez car temporairement, OK, parce que vous pral appliquer pour TPS ou bien ou vous êtes approuvé TPS, OK? So for those with asylum before immigration, USCIS, or EOIR, it's important to know that you can file for TPS while the asylum is pending, and you can travel with the advanced parole. However, you do risk undermining your asylum application if you travel back to Haiti. And that's really important to know because as I said before, you can't tell the government that you're afraid to go back to a country and then you get an advanced parole and go back to that country. If you are for some reason denied TPS, the courts can decide to review it. You have the opportunity, let's say that you get denied your other relief that you were trying to seek, then you can do a late initial registration within 60 days after that denial or termination of whatever benefit that you did possess. And you can also request administrative closure of your cases if your application is pending or if your TPS application is pending or the TPS has already been approved. And I just want to kind of go back to, like, this has also been part of the advocacy that we're doing, right? Where we've been asking the government to stipulate to certain things, right? So when we speak to the White House, we ask them to stipulate to certain things that are, conditions in Haiti and things like that without folks having to prove certain things. And so we've expressed all kinds of different things. And again, that's why we want to wait on the Federal Register notice to see, how far our advocacy has actually gone. Okay. Haitians with a pending I-485, and an I-485 is an application for residency. You can file TPS, and it's kind of the same thing, right? But if you had an application for asylum pending, you run that same risk of undermining. You can get the I-765 is free under the application for residency. So better to go do it there than to go do it under a TPS. Okay, so if you have the option, do it there. And a lot of this is the same. Bagay sayo, and BSU, of course, if you get the residency, your TPS is going to be denied because you have a form of status. And the idea behind TPS is that you don't have status, so we're going to protect you. So, pour moun ki gen yon résidence ki en cours, et wap tani, tout bagay c'est presque même samedi dit pour moun ki gen asile yo, même jusqu'à côté que nous dit que si vous avez une application asile qui en cours tout, l'on essaie de voyager sous advanced parole ou à Haïti, et c'est Haïti ou te met sous asile, on est que ça va le dire que ou pas peut vraiment, ok? Songez que permis de travail est gratis en bas résidence là, so vaut mieux à l'appliquer pour travail en bas résidence là pour aller faire en bas TPS là cap koto 400 $. Okay. This is where it gets very, very tricky. And si ou son moun ki tombe nan sa, vaut mieux chercher un avocat qui ka aido, qui ka assurer que tout bagay bien fait. Okay, this is where it gets really, really messy for people who have lived in a third country. It's so extremely important to get with an attorney early to have a conversation about that, your residency in a third country, to determine whether you can apply for TPS and what could happen. I will say it again. If you or someone you know plans on applying for TPS and you resided in a third country, get an attorney ASAP. Ma wè di li parce que li extrêmement important si nous tap vive ou bien nous konon moun qui peut l'appliquer pour TPS qui tap vive dans troisième pays, ça veut dire que ou pas États-Unis ou pas tap vive Haïti ou tap vive dans troisième pays, chercher un avocat dès maintenant, même le avis fédéral pour qu'on sorti au moins pour parler avec avocat pour connaître qui ça que ou ka fait dans situation ça. OK? So, même là où tu vivre dans un troisième pays, ça pas automatiquement dit que ou pas qu'à remplir TPS. Ça va automatiquement dire que ou pas qu'à filer pour TPS. Mais problème c'est que ça va dépendre de ça que tu passé dans le troisième pays, ça qui pral bayo en sens que c'est comme si ou gon pied à terre dans l'autre pays. So, c'est extrêmement important que nous fassions très attention avec ça parce que si nous avons pied à terre dans l'autre pays, essentiellement, nous n'avons pas besoin de protection États-Unis parce que nous gagnons dans l'autre pays. Donc, c'est pour ça que nous dit nous pour nous parler avec un avocat pour nous-mêmes nous faire analyse pour nous dire est-ce que vraiment vrai ou qu'à appliquer ou bien mais qui ça arrivé ou bien si vous t'as appliqué yo mande plus d'informations, nous-mêmes nous connaissons exactement qui argument que nous pouvons faire pour défendre. All right? So it's extremely, extremely important to allow the attorney to make this analysis to determine whether you're okay applying for TPS, even having lived in a third country. Because what you don't want is for the government to say, you know what, this person did have the protection of another country, and so therefore they don't need our protection because they had status in another country. And so we have to be really careful with that. And that's why I say we need to get you with an attorney. I'm not going to go through all of firm resettlement, but essentially, I mean, that's my favorite thing. And I could talk about that for an hour. But basically, you know, with firm resettlement, you know, there's a burden of proof. We have to allow DHS to do its job, right? And my managing attorney always says that it's our job to apply and their job to deny. So we have to we will do our best to make sure that we can put it forward. But we also have to know that DHS is going to do its job to try to prove that you firmly resettled somewhere else. And so it's important to be prepared for that situation. When ka parle de sa yo le firm resettlement, pour 2 heures de temps, si vous voulez, but m'pa rentrer dans tout ça, mais comme Cathedral Suprême, Catholique Charité toujours dit nous, job nous c'est appliquer, job gouvernement c'est pour décider. Donc c'est pas vous même qui parle décider pour yo, appliquer, mais parler avec un avocat avant que vous faites ça, okay? And then this is just a very complicated chart. This is how complicated TPS is. Like y'all are looking at a form and y'all think that the form is just, I'm going to write my name, and it's not like that. And so, c'est comme ça que l'application TPS est compliquée, mais toute considération qui passe dans tête moi avant que m'ka di au monde que oui ou ka appliquer pour TPS. So nous même nous ka une forme et puis nous dit tête nous mais ça gagne ça m'a juste écrit non moi m'a écrit date nous fait whatever mais toute considération que moi-même moi obligé faire, tout calcul moi obligé faire parce que il y a certains monde qui ont certains problèmes dans dossier que comme garder pour me faire analyse là bien. Okay? So that's it. That's all I have for you. I have so much more, but that's all I have for you right now.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. We're going to go ahead and have the other panelists present, and then we'll go to questions at the end of it. So we have now someone who's helped me with Citizenship Drive quite recently. As last month, we have another one coming up at the Lauderdale Mall. We do one every month, the third Saturday and Sunday. And Nadine Gideon, attorney, born and raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Mrs. Gideon obtained her first law degree from University Iskia in Haiti. I hope I came close.
You did.
She then went on to work as a legal officer at the Haitian Red Cross before she came to the United States. Attorney Nadine Gideon earned her Juris Doctorate degree from St. Thomas University School of Law, which she graduated magna cum laude. Yes. Powerful. Nadine Gideon is a decorated attorney who volunteers for the Board of Directors of Lawyers to the Rescue, VIDER, a nonprofit organization that provides pro bono legal services to women victims of domestic violence, and is also the president-elect for the Haitian Lawyers Association, HLA, a great partner in our community that I've worked with very closely over many years. Mrs. Gideon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening. I am the president-elect of the Haitian Lawyers Association. We are a legal non-for-profit organization, or a group of lawyers. We support our community by providing services and by working with other organizations. And we have worked with FLIC and Commissioner Holness by providing information and support with the citizenship drives. We have done other employment rights events, and we also ready to give our support for the TPS drive that will be coming up soon, hopefully, with the publishing of federal notice. Non pa mse Nadine Gideon, mwen se président-elect Association Avocat Haitien. Nous sommes un groupe avocat qui travaille avec l'autre organisation, et nous travaillons avec FLIC, nous travaillons avec commissionnaire Holness pour nous bailler service qui ont rapport avec citizenship, puis après faire naturalisation ou nous bailler service pour faire droit de l'emploi. Et nous apparaissons tout pour nous avoir assistance avec TPS qui va venir là, et nous pensons qu'il va venir bientôt. Look, I'm not gonna go too long because Vanessa and my friend here, I'm so honored to be sitting next to you, Marlon. They have covered basically everything. The only thing I wanted to add, I had that question the other day at my office when someone asked me, can I get citizenship or my permanent green card if I apply for TPS? And then I realized that this is still up, this issue that if you apply for TPS, you may not be able to apply for green card or naturalization. And I'm gonna tell you categorically, this is false, okay? Seul bagay que m'a pas ajouté dans conversation TPS là parce que mon collègue moi Marlene qui me faisait honorer chita bon côté là avec Vanessa pour bon paquet de bagay dans TPS là, mais me voulais ajouter sous question que est-ce que nous capable de green card nous avec citizenship nous si nous appliquer pour TPS. Il m'a dit nous ça, nous capable faire ça. Donc si on me dit nous pas capable, c'est menti mon n'a pas. Donc décision qui était sortie avec Supreme Court, lui-même, il n'a pas de rapport avec majorité monde qui est TPS. Surtout monde qui vit dans Florida, qui n'a pas de rapport avec décision ça qui était sortie dans l'autre juridiction. Okay, so this is, I don't know what else we could add about TPS. I think we covered everything, and but just to clarify, so TPS in and of itself, though, right, is not a pathway, right? So but you could still access other benefits that would be a pathway.
Right, meaning that if you have someone applying for it, if you have your spouse or a family member
like a sister, mom, they can apply for you. You can either go through consular processing or adjust your status here in the United States. Having TPS won't prevent you from doing that. So, si nou gen TPS, le fait que nou gen statut TPS nan li même pas pral ban nou e green card lan, parce que rumeur kap kouri kap di que voilà, yo pral bay moun TPS citizenship. Donc, c'est pour ça, Marlon ap goumen, Vanessa, tout le monde qui l'a ap goumen, mais c'est pas un bagay que yo déjà dit. Donc, faut que nous fassions attention. Donc, si nous avons des gens qui ont appliqué pour nous, nous avons mari, nous, maman, nous, frère, nous, qui mettent un papier en dedans pour nous, nous sommes capables de green card nous. Et là, nous avons green card nous, nous sommes capables éventuellement de devenir citoyen. Donc, on autre question, another question that I get is, when are they going to publish that notice? We don't know, but soon we might have an idea because CPS, the extension is due in, I think, October 2nd or 4th. The extension, the automatic extension that we had is due soon. And the law says at least 60 days prior to the expiration, when you have a TPS, like a normal TPS, the government has to take some action. So me personally, I am hopeful that by the beginning of next week, yes, we will have something before October 4th for sure. We have the decision will be published, but we have to wait. Apil moun ap mandem ki le notice nan lap soti nan journal fédéral lan, nou pa konnen. Nou espérer que lap soti bientôt. Donc, la loi a dit que 60 jours avant le TPS fini, le gouvernement est supposé prendre action. OK? Donc, nous pensons, basé sur ça, TPS qui a sorti dans le commencement août, zone 2, 4 août. Mais quand même, décision l'a sorti quand même avant et 4 octobre. So we are hopeful.
Merci Ampil. Great information. Next, we have a dynamic young leader, Sanchez Dennis, a South Florida native. Sanchez Dennis currently serves as the interim executive director for the Miami Workers Center and as the president and CEO of Advance Ensemble. Advance Ensemble's mission is to engage and connect Haitian American millennials with quality of life services. Ms. Dennis has been recognized for her commitment to anti-poverty and immigration work in South Florida. She was recently honored by the Broward County Commission and the Status of Women and the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce of South Florida as a 20 under 40 young professional. Ms. Dennis.
Thank you, Commissioner. Here we go. My Commissioner, super excited to be here, and for sure, Commissioner Holness. I'm born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, so I consider myself one of the Holness babies. I used to say I'm an Alcee Hastings baby. For sure, you've always been a huge supporter. And Holness, I would always say my church on Sinai Seventh-day Adventist Church on 46 always looked out for us as well. It is indeed a privilege for me to be here on behalf of Avance Ensemble, a movement for Haitian American millennials, preserving Haitian culture and Haitian Americans born stateside, and building economic and political power in South Florida's Haitian communities. For us, we're not necessarily attorneys, but we would like to consider ourselves freedom fighters and really in the movement to ensure that our parents, our grandparents, people who are impacted, and even ourselves have all the information that is needed in order to inform and better inform the communities. So Avance Ensemble's work in terms of TPS has really been to ensure that communities that we're close to, young people can make sure that the communities that they're a part of, the churches that they go to, the families that they're a part of, that they know all the information they need to ensure that decisions can be made, good decisions can be made. And for us, that looks like having Catholic Legal Services come to churches, but also to make sure that in our sessions with young professionals that we have monthly, that people are being able to bring up immigrant questions, and we're able to partner with folks who can answer those questions. We also know that that doesn't stop there. We have to elect progressive folks who believe and want to support immigrant communities. And that is the work of Avancé Ensemble, and that we think it's important not only to demand, but that we elect folks who would consider the case of immigrant folks, people who are living in the communities, folks who are contributing every day to our economies, that they too can have a pathway to live a thriving life here in South Florida. The other thing I will say is, putting on another hat, I'm the executive director of Miami Workers Center, and I'll translate in Creole in a little bit. Overwhelmingly, home health aides, nannies, your house cleaners, many of them are undocumented, and they provide and have been on the front lines throughout this entire pandemic. We know that without their work, without the caregivers that are on the front lines, that many of us wouldn't be able to do the things that we do every day. And so we too believe that our folks, the folks who are on the front lines, don't deserve to live in limbo, but they should have access not only to TPS, but a pathway to citizenship, right? And then the last thing I'll say before I translate is that we know that the workforce, specifically in South Florida, we're an aging community, right? People come here to retire, many folks do as well. And so when we think about what the workforce needs and the people that the workforce needs, we need to consider the case of immigrant folks living in this community. When you look at any hospital, the nurses, most of them are folks from immigrant backgrounds, people in the universities, people who teach our children, daycares, you name it, people who are taking care of our loved ones, the elderly, the disabled. These are the folks who are often not taken, not given an opportunity to have documentations for them to feel easy, rest easy in their homes. And I would even go on the line to say that when we don't give them those safe documentation, such as TPS, and even further, a pathway to citizenship, we allow for the exploitation of those folks to exist in our communities. These are the folks who are working 12, 13 hours days and making $5 an hour. These are the folks who folks say they're going to pay them $15 and instead they pay them $9, right? These are folks who are experiencing wage theft, harassment on the job. And to that, we don't believe that this should happen in our county, and then it shouldn't happen in South Florida, it shouldn't happen in this country. And so that is the work of us to continue to fight for a better life, not only for us, but for those who don't have the things that we have. Really quickly in Creole, in my best Kringlish, Avancé Ensemble, c'est un mouvement pour Haïtiens américains qui vivent ici, qui fait ici, pour nous capables de lutter pour l'économie avec politique, pour tout le monde capable impliqué là-dedans. Nous travaillons pour nous capables assurer que les gens qui fait ici, sont capables de be culture haïtien. Travail nous fait c'est pour nous capables, nous connaissons que ti moun qui fait ici a gen pile nan yo qui c'est yo même parents yo coûté qui vraiment ba idée avec conseil pour parents yo dans toute décision y a fait pour kayo et nous connaît les ti moun yo informé yo capable bien informer parents yo avec toute famille yo pas seulement famille yo avec toute communauté qui yo involved là-dedans. Nous connaît que l'ité sous TPS youn mais assurer que nous capable et les gens qui capon ka à nous seye, moun qui remet haïtien, moun qui remet à respecter immigrants dans pays nous. Et c'est ça nous travaillons pour ça en pile dans année 2020, nous travaillons pour ça et puis dans 2022 à cap venir côté a bien pile élection, même année ça gain élection qui gain pour ouais avec moun qui était dans Broward là. Nous connaissons que l'île pour nous capables et les gens qui capables lutter pour nous qui capable choisir que yo à point considération à cas non seulement haïtien mais tout le monde qui immigrant qui pas une chance ça yo pour yo capable vivre en bien dans le pays ça. C'est ça que pour nous à soya. Merci en pile pour tout le monde qui est venu à soya pour nous te comprendre et je pense que y a ouvert avec question. I'm turning it back to Ms. Marlon.
Yeah, avant non l'ouvrir avec question. Before we open up for questions, gon bagay qui extrêmement important m'dame mentionner encore. Dans pile nan monde qui gen statut protégé qu'après les femmes à travers pays États-Unis. Elle dit, Marlène, 18 mois, c'est à l'heure là, elle va le passer, oui. Qui ça n'a fait? Est-ce qu'il y a pas nos résidences là? Eh bien, yon le madame Darmen dit non, c'est que, bataille pour résidence là, femme pas mener pour compte li, catholique charities pas mener pour compte li, avancé ensemble pas mener pour compte li, Cheli pas mener pour compte li. Nous besoin de participation, pas nous. M'darme avant nous aller jodi là, sinon intéressé, participer dans effort qu'a fait pour nous jouer une solution permanente pour statut protégé, pour nous ouais, chief organizer qui là, Paul Lanfi. 2 fois par mois, nous faisons réunion dans 100 femmes. Nous li hybrid, nous faisons donc on a venir en personne, nous on a fait li nous on participé par Zoom, nous on a participé gens capable. Nous pas dit pour nous venir, nous obligé venir, si nous venir, venir. Mais l'extrêmement important pour nous connaître bataille là qu'on y pour nous joindre solution permanente ça et gen moun k'ap dit oh Marlène c'est pour qui possible même je te dit TPS designation n'est pas possible qu'on y a ça a dit oh c'est pas possible pour nos jeunes résidence là guess what pep organisé par Jean Perdi bataille et puis nous organisé pour ça fait si nous mettez voix nous ensemble pour nous amplifier voix nous eh bien yon le n'a dit mais ça femme t'a dit sur ce la parole non pour nous joindre petit Paul Nanfi bal téléphone nous bal email nous pour nous inviter nous quick synopsis in English. A lot of TPS recipients, they are doctors, PhD students, organizers, teachers. They've been calling our center asking, Marlène, 18 months, they're going to fly very fast. What are you guys doing to find a permanent path to get permanent residency to our TPS recipients? Well, the only thing I can tell you is that this is not something that will happen by itself, and it is not impossible. Remember what I said at the beginning. When we started advocating for the redesignation of TPS, a lot of people said it was impossible. And some people will say now that it is impossible to find permanent residency for the 600,000 TPS recipients. But guess what? If we organize, we fight for it, we can get it. The Dream and Promise Act passed the House twice already, right? Twice. It is stuck in the U.S. Senate. You have a role to play. You have 2 senators here who will present you. Who are they? Who are the 2 senators? All right? You need to call them and ask them. Ask them, what are they doing to make sure that we have a bill introduced in the U.S. Senate? It can happen, but it will not happen if you're not engaged. So if you do anything tonight, after the questions, please see Paul Nafi. He's the lead organizer at FAM. Every other month, we have a meeting where we strategize. We train you, give you organizing skills. We give you communication skills so that we give you the scripts so that when you call your senators, you know exactly what to say, right? And then when we start traveling back to Washington, we hope that you who have TPS and who are sitting in this room, you travel with us so we can amplify our voices to find a permanent path for temporary protected status. When we sued the Trump administration, some people said, Marlène, you cannot fight a big man like Trump. But guess what? We fought, we sued him, and we won. Do you understand? So let us organize. Let us do our part to make sure that we have a comparable bill introduced in the U.S. Senate. We can do it. We can do it. Thank you.
So part of what I think we ought to do, my friend, is we have to educate the broader community, the benefits of immigrants, and how this country benefits, how those who are not immigrants benefit. 18% of the small businesses in the United States are owned by immigrants, started by immigrants. That employs, according to a 2007 number, that's many years ago, so it's much more than that now, 4.7 million people are working because an immigrant started a business. And contribute to the economy annually $776 billion. Immigrants are not taken away from others. They're contributing to the success and the prosperity of everyone. They're not taking away jobs. Right now, we're in a job shortage in many industries. Those are the positions that many immigrants filled to ensure that our economy continue to grow and all of us continue to prosper. Not only that, trade with countries that have large immigrant population here is higher than those that don't. We usually have trade surpluses from those countries to those countries. So we're selling more to the countries than we're buying from them. Haiti's trade with Broward County in 2018 increased 7.5% from 387 million to $416 million. That's a lot of money that is exchanging hands here to help grow our economy. Let me, at this point in time, acknowledge some of our support staff that's not sitting up here on the stage. Let me start by acknowledging Yashoda Lochan. Wave your hand, Yashoda. Yashoda Lochan, who is my executive assistant at the county. We also have Heidi Richards, chief of staff at the county in my office. And Anthony Bonamy. Where's Anthony? Wave your hand, Anthony. Parle Creole, très bien. So he makes up for me not being able to speak here. Okay? And let me acknowledge staff for my dear friend, Commissioner Alexandra Davis, Ms. Aura Thomas, her legislative aide, Anna. And I have in the back one of my super volunteers, Haitian, Ms. Nadine Sterling. Would you stand and wave your hand, Nadine? Stand up.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
All
She's
right.
been handing out the application. And I know the portal is not open yet for this to happen. But one of the things that we're doing is we're making sure people understand how complicated this document is. And that whatever they can gather now and prepare for, they're able to get that together. So they're ready when they come to Catholic Charities, the Haitian Lawyers Association, FAM, or whatever other entity they go to get help. Let me acknowledge also a good friend of mine, not Haitian, Mr. Juan Flores, 15 de Septiembre Foundation. He's from Honduras, and of course, we are looking forward to supporting extension of TPS to those Central American countries that qualify for it also. We're here in support of that. I am. Now, I have some questions, and most of them were answered previously. But let me ask if there's anyone in the audience who have a question, so we can get that addressed first, and then I'll go to some questions that I have. Yes, you may come forward. You may come on up. There's a mic right here.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Je suis content activité à faire parce que tout le monde qui pas au courant, qui préfère entendre ça mon a dit et les connaître cela. Je m'apprécie l'activité ça m'a faire. Donc question que pour demander ce projet TPS là, c'est il y a des gens qui dit que vous attendez? Attendez Kounia? Oui, question que c'est sous cause TPS là, c'est cause t'as des gens dit que les ou des petits moun qui fait tant que parents qui est TPS, il y a des petits moun qui fait ici, les petits moun ont 18 ans, lui ka bay par papier, est-ce que c'est vrai? On dit TPS? OK, parents gen TPS, mais petits moun nan sont citoyen lié. Mais yo dit que les petits moun nan vinn gen 18 ans, tant qu'on dit que petits moun nan te fait ici. Petits moun nan vinn gen 18 ans, mais parents par papier, parents gen TPS. Est-ce que c'est vrai petits moun ça ka bay par papier?
Si mon nom ka bay papier, mais l'âge là, c'est 21 ans.
21 ans? OK. Si moun n'a pas appliqué pour parents, right? OK. Une autre question. C'est pour ti moun qui sorti Haïti, qui fait high school yo ici, qui gagne TPS. Est-ce qu'il est possible pour ti moun ça appliquer pour papier?
Je pas comprendre question.
OK. On dit que un adolescent sorti Haïti, fait tout fini high school ici. Est-ce qu'il est possible parce que li fait tout high school licite, li ka appliqué pour le papier.
Bon, papier pour l'appliquer, c'est TPS dans s'il là avant 21 mai.
Okay.
À moins que si ti moun sa en bas 21 ans, parents sont américains ou bien parents sont en résident, parents ka met papier pour li en dedans. Mais ti moun sa li même genre avec tout l'autre monde qui pas gen papier, la fait application TPS li.
Okay. Okay, pour question avant, is there a specific form for that child to apply for the parent?
Well, it's the same form. It's the I-130, and if you're doing your adjustment of status, it's form I-485.
Okay. Right.
You file both of them together.
Okay.
If you came here like legally, you have a parole document, or you have you were stamped at when you came.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Okay.
Let me also thank Cliff from Island TV, Cliff Wave, for being here. And I know you recorded the session. I'm sure that you will let the audience get some of that information so that they can be prepared for applying for TPS. Another person. Go ahead, sir.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Je remercie le commissionnaire et puis tout le monde. Yeah. Je remercie tout le monde. Donc, merci parce que nous offrons nos possibilités ça, pour nous participer dans le meeting. Ça. Okay, donc, question là, pas assez évident, mais je vais poser quand même. Est-ce que il y a une possibilité pour le monde qui vient après 21 mai, qui a marronné sur appliqué dans TPS ou whatever,
Bon, loi TPS dans l'éclair, date côté coupé là, c'est date yo fait et désignation. Désignation c'est 21. Ou pas éligible pour faire TPS si ou vient après date ça. Ou pas éligible pour TPS ou quitter pays après date ça. Donc, non seulement faut côté là avant 21 mai, mais faut toujours là jusqu'à ce que vous sorti et fait dans notice là et ou fait application et approuvé application.
Merci.
Et pour moun qui besoin connaître qui gens que vous approuvé que vous êtes là dans le pays, Cassandra Mas derrière et il a bon quelques flyers pour montrer qui sortent de documents que vous avez commencé à accumuler, OK? L'autre bagage là, on songe avocat te dit que même le long qui finit un TPS, on pas déplacer, si on besoin de déplacer, on pas lever comme ça non déplacer. Pour nous appliquer, ouais, pour nous font application pour nous aller. Et puis me souhaiter nous songer information le débat sur monde qui remplit application pour asile politique, de nous besoin quitter le pays, pas vrai? De nous faire application pour asile politique, nous dit que nous peut pour nous retourner dans le pays non. Donc, on n'a pas appliqué pour nous retourner dans le pays, nous faisons très attention. OK, guys? Parole parler, parole. On prend.
All right, so question, how long is the time to process the application after it's been submitted? What's the average time once you send an application in?
It's very hard to give an average time for processing, and the reason is because we're dealing with COVID, and so USCIS is using that as a great excuse to delay things further. But for the most part, within a few weeks, most people get at least a receipt notice letting you know that they received the application. And so, you know, with anything with immigration requires a ton of patience. Pas vraiment gagnant date fixe que nous a dit que, OK, après un certain nombre de temps, avant, nous t'ai dit que, OK, après quelques semaines, nous t'avons besoin de ça, et puis après quelques autres semaines, nous t'avons besoin de ça, mais avec COVID-19 là et pandémie, immigration utilise ça comme une excuse pour ajouter plus de délai dans bagaille. Donc, ça nous connaît déjà, c'est que après quelques semaines, nous avons supposé recevoir un reçu qui dit que vous recevoir application, mais pour joindre un approval, nous pouvons connaître parce que jusqu'à présent, nous avons des gens que nous avons appliqué pour Venezuela qui attendent toujours.
Right. So each application has its own process. Basically, we have sent a lot of applications for the Venezuelans. We've received one approval after 4 months. So and we have a bunch of them still waiting. So nous faut que nous tenions chaque application gen procès pa yo, gen yo process yo nan façon pa yo. Et Jean Vanessa dit, donc avec COVID nan gan pile délai k'ap fait, but nous même nan bureau PAM nan, nous recevons premier approval nous pour Venezuela après 4 mois. Et il y a un pile que nous voyons, nous pour content dans rien de eux. Donc, il vraiment dépend de chaque dossier, chaque monde.
Yon lot bagay nou réalisé tout dans discussion avec un pile avocat, m'da parlé avec un avocat hier, sous presque temps le prend qu'on y a, le monde a appliqué pour permis de travail. C'est que administration Trump qui ton backlog extraordinaire. Yo m'pa konn ki sa yo fait, yo rig system nan qu'on y a tout bagay en plus temps. You're right, there's a huge backlog, left by the Trump administration. So it's gonna add to the length of time that, it's gonna take. So you're gonna need a lot of patience, okay?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Good evening. Buenas tardes. My name is Juan Flores. I represent the Honduras community. Thank you so much, Commissioner Alexander, lawyers and leaders. Very important this meeting for TPS. So many people in my community you understand what is TPS. Y now the Honduras and Guatemala, Salvador and Nicaragua, I work hard for the new TPS, not renewal. I understand is the council in October 4th, no? So maybe continue, maybe next week had good news. So, pero in Honduras, last year had the dangerous damage for Hurricane Iota in all Central America, plus the pandemic. Now, I'm working hard for new TPS. The president, the ex-administration, the President Trump, had the new petition for TPS. So, but the President Biden had the new petition TPS too for Honduras and Guatemala. No, see the Salvador and Nicaragua, but so I understand this community needed TPS. Explain the Commissioner Del Holness, they're very important, all the community work hard here, the immigrant community and the construction on the whole place is very hard, the labor for my community or the whole community. Now I'm very tired for don't have nothing for the new TPS for the people. I think so. My people, the Honduras and Central America, qualify and the TPS for ANA 240 when they destroy for hurricane or this pandemic is very terrible. This pandemic in my country, I think so. The Honduras qualify. I learned too much today. It's very important this meeting. I learned too much today. I passed the best on my community for preparation, for be ready when they come in the new TPS. I looking now in support when my commissioner David and Commissioner Del Holness had this letter, or maybe can help for send a letter to President Biden or the Vice President Kamala Harris, or say the Central America need TPS too. Right. Thank you so much. Let me finish in Spanish porque son varios people that watch Spanish all United States. Estoy aquí agradeciendo a los comisionados, David, comisionado Holness, los abogados y los líderes de la comunidad aquí en la ciudad del condado de Broward, en Miramar específicamente, agradeciendo por esta invitación que nos han hecho para aprender un poco más qué es el TPS. El TPS no solamente es que lo dan y ya todo el mundo lo tiene. Hay que trabajar fuertemente, decía la abogada, que un TPS no lo puede escribir tiene que ser un abogado, no tiene que ser un paralegal, porque eso prácticamente obstruye el procedimiento y lo puede meter en problemas. Y hay otros procedimientos y las reglas que seguir para calificar a un TPS. Pero también estoy aquí para hacerle la petición a los comisionados, al comisionado Del Holness y a la comisionada Davis y a todos los comisionados del condado de Broward, que creo que son 9, para que nos ayuden en esta petición que está pidiendo Honduras de un nuevo TPS, ya que Honduras fue devastado por el huracán ETA y Iota y tenemos serios problemas con la pandemia. Hoy hemos elaborado una carta para que los comisionados nos puedan ayudar y hacer llevar este mensaje a la vicepresidenta Kamala Harris y al presidente John Biden para que él sepa esta petición y la urgencia y la necesidad que tenemos, ya que hay una solicitud de un nuevo TPS de Honduras y Guatemala desde el 4 de diciembre, la de Honduras y Guatemala recientemente. no así El Salvador y Nicaragua, pero estamos también gestionando por ellos y luchando por ellos porque los hermanos centroamericanos ahora mismo no hay condiciones en Centroamérica para regresar y necesitan de nuestra comunidad, como decía nuestra líder. Solo unidos las comunidades podemos hacer más fuertes y podemos empujar estos proyectos. El TPS es prácticamente un estatus de protección temporal que nos ayudaría mucho a todos y hago entrega aquí al comisionado de Homeless y al comisionado Davis esta carta importante buscando ayuda para nuestra comunidad que lo necesita mucho. Gracias.
Muy bien. Yeah. One thing I'd like to encourage you to do, because we at FAM, we organize for temporary protected status for everyone. And I definitely would encourage you to meet Paul Dunphy because we organize, statewide, but also nationally. When we have the meetings, we have translation in Spanish. I'm going to call Tipol para decir algo en español para ustedes que hablan solamente español. It's extremely important for you to join us because sometimes we have advocates nationally. We hold national press conferences, and we need people to come. We need people like you to come and speak on behalf of the Salvadoran community, on behalf of the Honduran, Nicaraguan, and so forth. So say something in Spanish.
Sí,
para
muy
todos.
rápidamente. Otras personas.
The mask.
Muy rápidamente, porque hay otras personas necesitando hacer intervención también. Pero creemos aquí, y voy a seguir con la charla, lo que dijo Marlon Bastian ahorita, que es menester pasar a la acción. Porque nosotros todos estamos aquí para pedir acción. Porque sin esta acción no vamos a lograr a la meta. Eso es claro. Es necesario que nuestros elegidos impiden en este momento que alcancemos con el objetivo. No solamente que la gente de Salvador, de Honduras, de Nicaragua, de Haití tengan redesignación, en este momento Haití está teniéndolo. Estamos esperando que los demás países lo alcancen también. También para otros países como Guatemala, como Colombia. Todo eso es necesario porque como las abogadas y como la señora Bastián dijo, las condiciones se reúnen por eso, por la redesignación de Haití desde décadas y los demás países también. Es una cuestión de voluntad política. Entonces, para concluir, FAM siempre se reúne 2 veces por mes.
Por mes, sí.
2 veces por mes. Es posible para nosotros, según el público, tener la reunión en creol, en inglés, en español, en el idioma necesario. Pero para terminar, hay 3 luchas. Sin embargo, hay una sola lucha. Esas 3 luchas son la redesignación y la nueva designación de los países, de las nacionalidades aquí. Segundamente, como explicó Marlene, que recibimos cada día pedidas que 18 meses son muy pocos. Necesitamos una vía hacia la residencia permanente. Pero por eso es necesario recordar a los elegidos, incluso a los 2 senadores de aquí. Sí, por ejemplo, señor senador Rubio recibe cada día 1000 llamadas de haitianos y haitianas, 1000 llamadas de hondureños, de salvadoreños, de nicaragüenses, de los demás países. Es claro que señor senador Rubio tomará esa decisión o la próxima vez el electorado conseguirá otra senadora que podrá hacerlo. Es claro. Entonces, estoy haciendo una llamada a todos, por favor, es menester que nos organicemos para alcanzar con la meta. Gracias.
Entonces vamos a luchar juntos para la continuación y para la residencia. Pensamos que podemos ganar si trabajamos juntos. Muchas gracias. Danos su nombre y número de teléfono para invitarlos a nuestros meetings, what are reunions, right? Oh, thank you. Muy
so much.
importante.
Thank you. We're going to have Commissioner Alexandra Davis close out, but just one last tidbit of information. In Broward County, 1 in every 3 person living here is an immigrant, 1 in another country. 1/3 of the population. If you remove 1/3 of the population, imagine what life would be like. Thank you so much for being with us, Commissioner Alexandra Davis.
Well, thank you so much, everyone who came out to listen to this informational session. I'm sure you got a lot of information. We'd like to thank our co-moderators, Commissioner Holness and our State Representative, Millie Woodson, who had to leave early. And of course, our esteemed panelists, thank you for coming all the way over to Miramar. We like to say that we're at the center of everything. And for those of you that are watching on Facebook Live and watching on our TV channel, Comcast 78, and we'll have this being replayed on Miramar TV. And so please encourage folks who didn't make it out tonight to log on and view Miramar TV on MiramarFL.gov, as well as looking at our Facebook Live. So once again, thank you so much. And we know we will work together to make sure we achieve our goals. Thank you.
Thank you.